Hi, and welcome to today's movement session. If you're looking for something to help you engage with your body a little bit, maybe wake up the senses a little, build some mobility and some strength, you're in the right place. Let's bring some attention to ourselves, to our breath, possibly even set some intentions for helping us getting moving for this session. Whether it's the first thing of the day or throughout the day, it's time now to give your body some positive attention and just move. So take a moment to breathe well, find a connection to the air passing in and out of your body. And while we're here, taking a few moments, today we're going to go through move to move, and we'll progressively build up the challenge, going from warming up our bodies in a general sense to more specific patterns and one or two little challenges thrown in there. If you need to modify anything to suit your level or to suit your energy today, certainly go for it. We're going to start with some basic warming up, and then we'll move into our circuits very soon. So whether you're seated or crouched or in a position, let's start with getting our necks more engaged. Leading with the eyes, I want you to gaze around at any particular thing. So you could be indoors, you might be outside. Find something to look at for a moment. Let the eyes lead the way and let the neck follow. Give yourself some variety. Go from a very easy position, so from seated, from where you are, nice and easy. And we're going to keep this idea going after changing into different positions. So the next position I want you to do is a kneeling position. So hopefully on your toes, but anything that works for you, just starting to sit up a bit more. And you continue the same idea. So look in a direction, focus on something for a moment, and see what happens with the rest of your neck. And what we're doing here is you're allowing the neck, the spine, to get more engaged and be ready for some slightly bigger ranges of motion. Let's change to the next position. Here we go into a tabletop, so kneeling on knees and hands. Look at any random spot for a moment. Try to give yourself a bit of a 360-degree option, under the arms, over the back of the shoulder, and you'll see this naturally gets the spine waves initiated. Very, very, very healthy, and a great way to start some movement session, and a great way to build a good relationship with our core, with our center lines. Next position, we go into a hip opener. It's up to you if you want to keep the knee on the ground or up. You can place a hand on the ground if you need. Here we helping our hips and our spine and our necks connect a little bit more. And we keep that idea going. Change to the other side. You can see I'm supporting myself on my knee as well, just for some extra love. For me, it's pretty early. This is the first thing I'm doing on this day. So it's a great way to wake up, get some sun in the eyes, get some air. Right. If you're able to, we're going to go into a low squat. If you need to be on your toes, that's all good. But if you can sit flat-footed, go for it. Starting to load the hips a little more. This is the last position with the eye gazing. Give yourself some small challenges, small varieties. Still a good chance before we get more intense to focus on quality of breath. Awesome. Right. Let's get into some shoulder mobilizations. You can sit, you can kneel, and we just make some classic shoulder rolls. We're going to go backwards to start. Feel that little bit of crunchiness between the shoulder blades. Change direction to go forwards. Nice big circle. See if you can listen to your shoulders. And I always like to do a little challenge of alternating directions. So swivel one shoulder one way, the other shoulder the other way, creating a natural rotation. Try the other way. This tricks out some people, so don't worry if you don't get it. And as always, let's give some mobilization to the wrists. We certainly will load the wrists a little today. So we'll do some rolls here in both directions. You can absolutely spend more time warming up the wrists if you need to, but we're going to give the wrists a good warm up in the next couple of moments. So set yourself up into a tabletop again, but with a shorter space between knees and hands. So this is going to allow us to shift backwards and forwards here and progressively load the wrists. So we go back and we go forwards, we load, and then on the way back, we change the position of the hands to the out, we lean forward and back, we change position to the hands in, forward and back, and we repeat this process. So fingers forward, fingers pointing out, and then fingers in, just for some variety on the wrists here. And you'll notice with the toes in the position they are, they also get a nice stretch here. If you can do this, especially if you're inside, but outside certainly too, barefoot, even better. Give those toes some mobility as well. And we finish off the last pattern here with the inside. Let's level up that wrist demand slightly. So flipping the hands so that the fingers face towards your knees. And the process here is the same. Go gentle with this one. It's quite a stretch on the forearms. It's more demand on the wrists, certainly. And we'll do this a couple times. This is completely optional. It's good to also slightly condition the wrist the other way around. So what we're doing is we're placing the backs of our hands on the ground. If you need to, you can place the hands facing fingers towards each other, so inwards. But the way I'm doing it here is slightly more advanced. Keep most of the weight on your knees and your feet, and then gently, progressively move around your wrist there. Very underestimated way to strengthen the wrists. Give it a shake, get the tension out there. All right, let's get more into some spinal rotations. So we're going to set up our wide low stance here with the knees a bit wider. And we're going to reach between the space and focus on the muscles of the back and our spine. So you go low through and reach across, and we engage the muscles of our back and our shoulder blades, and we lift up and we squeeze that shoulder blade back. So you want to end up in sort of an archer position here, starting to get the back muscles a bit more active. One more time on that side, and then we'll switch to the other direction. Can't let the other side get jealous, huh? So nice and strong planting of body position in the hand. This is somewhere between stretching and activating. So of course, if you need to linger and elongate a bit more and breathe, see what your body's saying to you. But here we have a chance to start building some strength, activating the muscle lines to help us with the movements coming up. Great stuff. Continuing with the theme of activating the muscles between the shoulder blades on the upper back, the thoracic area, we're going to go from what's known as a classic downward dog, and we're going to start our first spinal waves into a high plank. So don't worry if the legs aren't completely straight here. The hamstring stretch is a bit of a bonus. So from the back position, walk it out if you need to. Any other movements that help you settle into this posture. And from here, we're going to focus on shifting our body weight forward and tucking that tailbone, and vertebra by vertebra, we're going to segment and roll from lower back, middle back to the upper back until we're in a plank. And we keep this move going here. This is an awesome move I like to incorporate often, bringing some awareness to the spine and making some spinal waves. And doing it from this high plank position into a down dog position gives us a lot of feedback. So it's a great way to practice it. So when you're ready as well, we can expand that wave. So we add an extra downward motion into a back arch, also known as an upward dog. If you require a bit more support, I'd recommend to place your knees down to the ground very early on before lowering the rest of the body weight and arching the back. Remember at the upwards dog posture to open the chest nice and proudly, open the collarbones, and try to keep this movement slow and controlled, and you reverse your spine wave to go back. Getting a bit of warmth through the core, mobilizing the body much better. Well done. Always recommend if you need to shake things out, go for it. Get the tension out there. Let's come to standing. So what we're doing here is very similar to a backwards lunge, but instead of stepping only straight back, what we're going to do is step slightly across our center line. So it looks like a bit of a curtsy, just adding to that spiral that we'll create. So we step back and across our midline and we twist towards, adding to that spiral. You can keep your arms wherever they feel most natural. And what you'll feel here is a slightly different sensation through the ankles, the hips, the knees. So we're just encouraging a bit of an extra range through a lunge compared to what just stepping back would be. So at your own pace, or you're welcome to keep up with me, we're going to alternate sides. And the option here as well to extend the arms to the sides or overhead. And this will give us a little bit more elongation, a bit more of an active stretch. It's trickier than it seems to have the arms overhead especially. There's a lot of tension through the body in these postures. So it's a great way to start building our postural strength. And especially the relationship from glutes, midline, up into the thoracic area. Right, so let's do one full body movement now. And this will take us towards the end of our preparation. So continuing with the theme of spine rolling, we're going to do an articulated forward fold. So we roll down piece by piece until our hands get to the ground. Of course, if you need to bend your legs, go for it. Once we're there, we just step forward in a crawl into a high plank, take a moment and reverse the process. So this is completely yours. Go at a pace that works for you. Keep the quality very good. And especially on the way up, if you need to bend your legs, go for it so that you can have a good quality spine roll, returning to a standing position. So wherever you are, let's do that twice more. Check in with the spine, see how the legs are doing overall. You can incorporate a low squat or you can keep it a high hip position to get more of a hamstring stretch, up to you. And that takes us to the end of our preparation. Let's get into some moves. So we start seated. We bend our one leg, our foot is placed underneath the other leg. And we essentially make almost a straight line from foot to knee to hand that runs across so that we have a base from which to elevate ourselves. So we plant our hand, we plant our foot, and we drive our hips forward and we open up our arms to start getting the chest more engaged as well. So it might take a few tries to see exactly where you should be in terms of your points of contact, but give it a try a few times and feel out how it works for you. Strong through that supporting shoulder. And as you drive your hips and you're in a tall position, engage those glutes, get them a bit more fired up. And we'll do one more on that side and we'll switch over. So imagine that straight-ish line that your hand, knee and foot will be on, more or less. Rock forward, you drive into that supporting arm, switch on the glutes, drive the hips and open that chest. Make sure to control the speed at which you go back to the ground. Don't fall onto your butt. Try to keep it nice and conscious. These kinds of maneuvers are great for building our foundations, for leaning on our arms whether it's inversions or just stabilizing through vaulting maneuvers for more advanced situations. But they're also just a great way to strengthen and open our upper bodies. All right, next position here, we're going to go into a kneel on our toes once more. And what we'll do is we scoop our hand, any hand, we'll do both sides, to one side. And the goal here is to feel that you have a strong base of support. So whether or not you go very far into the maneuver is not important right now. Of course, if you can do a nice full back arch, that's great. But don't force anything. It's still relatively early in the session. And what we're going for here again is that combination of hip drive, driving through the middle back line, and opening up our upper body. So give it a shot and kind of wave from one side to the next. I'll exaggerate my arms here to help the effect of the circle and to also get a bonus lat stretch. And you'll see that my knees lift up. Yours may or may not lift up. It's all up to you how much support you need. This can be quite a stretch for the knees, quite a lot of pressure on them, so modify if you need. And we'll do one more each way. Alright, the next move, dive bomb press-ups, or you could consider them going from a downward dog position, low to the ground, into an up dog position. So if you want this to be a bit more strength focused, you can treat it more like a push-up. And what we're going for here is a scoop-like motion. What you could see from here is going from the back position, doing a forward-leaning press-up into a back arch or an upwards dog. That alone is great. So if you need to make that iteration of this move yours, it's certainly great. If you're feeling up to it, what I want you to try is make a scoop-like dipping motion with your body. It requires a bit more strength. Driving the body through, again, incorporating those spinal waves, and then just reversing through a spine wave to the down dog position like we did before. Really, really, really good move to build some strength. There are lots of versions of this one. And again, I can recommend, if you require, to get your knees to the ground to support you. But if you're feeling strong, you can copy as I'm doing here. We've got 2 more to go. First, bit of warmth through upper body here, a bit of challenge. Don't forget to breathe. Well done. Right, we go to our next move. So, with those curtsy steps we did earlier, and the reaching to the sides, it was also to prep for a bigger version of it. So here we're going to essentially replicate that maneuver. The goal here is to make it broader and wider and more lateral. So we step more across, we create a bigger space between our feet, and we reach and we really set our intention to the distance. So we're taking that spiral in the lunge and we're making it even bigger. And for extra challenge here, try to stay low throughout changing sides. This will get a bit more strength work through the legs, a bit more challenge through the body overall. I love this one. It takes me back to the days of Kung Fu training. And Kung Fu uses a lot of spirals, a lot of circular motions. Very beautifully done, but also very effective with movement and with energy transfer. So keep this going a couple times. Again, the arms are a bonus. The steps itself are a nice challenge. Last pair, and we go to our next one. So we coiled ourselves up, we twisted our bodies. Now let's do somewhat of the opposite. We're going to open up our stance and we're going to work more on our medial lines, so our groin lines, and again our spirals. So set your stance up to where you can, definitely wider than hip width, and we're essentially going to squat or lunge to one way, and we're going to reach our hand across to the opposite foot, and we're going to put some emphasis through getting that top shoulder turning and opening. So at the very least, we want our chest to be facing to the side, and if you can, you kind of twist enough that the chest can eventually face up. I'm going to keep my arms bent here, but you can open up the arms more. Again, we alternate sides. Try to keep the feet relatively parallel. They're welcome to shift slightly. The goal here is the groin line, combining with our diagonals through our torso, opening up that chest, activating the muscles of the upper back. Keep this going for some time. And last pair each. Well done, well done. There we go. Right, next move. Also a deceptive one, but an awesome maneuver to help with our posture. So with all this sitting in our lives, all this leaning forward, all this focus on the little boxes in front of our eyes, we tend to not engage our upper back too much, or we don't engage the length of our muscles throughout our posterior lines, so our back lines. So what we're going to do here is combining the maneuver of a low squat, using a forward reach to set up some length through our back, elevating the arms up, so using our muscles to lift the arms. Try not to shrug your shoulders too much, try to lift them, and standing strong, pulling those arms back, squeezing the shoulder blades together. It may help you to bend the arms. And when you get this going, it can look circular, so with the hands going forward, up, back, and down to the sides in a rhythm, you make a bit of a flow here. So again, if you need to alter the squat to suit you, that's all good. Nice challenging postural move, great for helping us be a little less slouchy, hopefully stand a bit more proud. Last one to go there, and there we go. Alright, the next move could also be considered slightly more advanced, but if we break it down, it's essentially like doing a side step, similar to what we did earlier with the Cossack. And what we're going to do is we're going to step forward across what would be our center line. So if I'm facing forward and I step forward and across, what happens is we make a new gap between our feet. And that gap is somewhere we can spot with our eyes. So when we step forward and bend down, we are able to see through. And we place our hands to the ground in a very broad, strong position to help us create a bit of torque and to have a base of support. This is a great move. It reminds me a lot, again, of martial arts training, and in particular, this is quite a well-known maneuver in capoeira. It's a great base of support for many strong kicks or different low-to-ground positions, and we're using it here as a foundation to build some mobility and some rhythm, some coordination. We're going to keep alternating sides. Very, very good stretching for the hamstrings, the groin, the body overall. And as you can see, again, building up some circles, some spirals. We'll do one more pair each way. And because I know that wasn't challenging enough for you, we're going to level up the last move for this main section. What we're going to do is we're going to take some elements of what we've done, combine them into a move that asks us to reach into some stability, some coordination, and maybe even some courage. What we're going to do is we're going to take that curtsy with the reach. That will initiate the setup of our feet in our hands. Then we take that front leg, we stabilize ourselves, we elevate it, and we place it behind us for a bit. This will then form a new base of support. Once we have that, we have lots of options from this position. This position we're in here, where the toes are on the ground, the front leg is straight, and we're on a supporting arm, is great for getting into our back extensions, maybe even more dynamic moves like macacos or cartwheels. But at this point, we're using it on a more grounded level to build some strength and get some mobility through the shoulders, some glute strength, some ankle stability, many purposes to use this for. Once we're there, we place our hands and we do essentially a supported press up. So the leg, the feet, and the hands all work together to perform this press. It should actually be less difficult than doing a standard press up in terms of how much you have to push. But it takes a bit of skill in terms of how to use the body as a whole. So let's try that a couple times. We'll go piece by piece. If you absolutely need to, you can leave out the pressing part, and then we reverse the process piece by piece. We engage our bodies very consciously to come standing again. So try that once or twice more as a practice, and then see if you need to modify it overall, because we're going to bust it into a circuit now for roughly a minute. I'm going to alternate sides, mostly so that I can stay in view. You can do this one direction for half the time, or you can keep alternating like I am. So let's go for it. Set up your stance, place the hand, lift, elevate, replace the foot, hands down, press, stabilize, put that foot back in front, and bring yourself up with the strength of your legs and your core. We're about halfway, so if you've been doing one direction, now's the time to change. If you've been alternating, we keep going. Challenge yourself here. This move is fairly advanced, but it's actually more accessible when you piece it together like this, and make sure the quality is there. Finish off your last one wherever you are. It's a great move, especially for a session like this, a bit more of a challenge. If you gave it a shot, well done. If you needed to modify it, still well done, because you tried it and you made it your own. Right, if you're going to continue moving after this session, you can skip this part, or you can take into consideration that we're going to be cooling down now. Let's just make sure that we re-regulate our senses a little bit more. Right, so the first position, we just come to a seated posture and just shake anything out. The legs did a bit of work, the arms did a bit of work, so I'm just going to rock side to side, get some articulation through the ankles. Always check in with the neck and the spine. And in our first set maneuver, we go into seated, and we just, again, reach ahead of us to the side, and we move side to side here. So we're keeping the movement still dynamic, nothing too passive, just encouraging that motion. Right, then we move to place our hands behind us for a couple spinal extensions, still with the idea of keeping active mobility. We're going to apply a similar principle from a butterfly position here. So with our soles of the feet together, reach the feet if you can. I already get a bit of a groin stretch here, and what I'm going to do is maintain the butterfly seated posture while extending and bending that back. So this is a great way to get a bit of groin stretch and activation while still focusing through the spine. Try that a couple times, relax into it. Next thing here, we place our hands a bit further back, and we're going to go into an active tabletop before holding it. So we drive our hips up, we stretch out the shoulders, and we lift our hips so that our body is relatively flat. Engaging those glutes still there for one last time, and hold it there for a couple moments. Breathe into it. Well done. Let's shift over into a 90-90 sit, and what we're going to do here, once we've got our 90-90 leg position to one side, we turn our torsos towards the other direction. Wherever our butt is pointing, the back leg, we look towards that direction. Can be a little uncomfortable at the hip. Gauge your own intensity, do what you can. We're trying to engage our musculature to encourage the expansion of our mobility. And we change to the other side, and we do the same thing. Set up a nice base of support, use your hands to help you, and then twist towards that back leg. Breathe into it, relax. Alright, we go to our next move. So the first setup here is something between a child's pose and a tabletop. So we go onto our knees and our hands, and our body weight is slightly ahead of our knees, so that when our hands are far in front and we drop our chest, it creates a stronger sensation through the chest and the rib area. Hold it there for a couple moments. Breathe into that stretch, and then when you're ready, you shift back into a more traditional child's pose. So very similar, but now our weight is completely at the back onto our feet and our hips, and our arms are able to relax in front of us. So although passive stretching is great, we certainly have a place for it. Most of the mobility and stretching we'll do, and that we should do, involves a bit of activation and some strength building. This is the way in which we can really improve the quality of maneuvers and how we can expand our library with control, build strength to be more safe with our own bodies. All right, well done on making it this far. We did quite a nice move-to-move circuit that involved mobility, a bit of coordination and strength. By no means basic. I hope it helped you today. I hope it was a way for you to check in and to move the body a little bit. You may have found that it was a great way to warm up or to prepare you for other things. Certainly encourage you to do that as well. Let's end off as we started, bringing some intention back to our breath. So notice your breath, sit nice and tall. Bring your senses back gradually. Thank you again for joining. Remember to focus and breathe and stay in motion, and I'll see you very soon.